Welcome to Cellmates, the podcast where we take two animated movies, compare, contrast, and generally throw a Venn diagram over them, or put them in a Venn diagram, or diagram them in a venular way. Most of these movies are Disney.
But not always.
They're usually musicals.
Not always.
And they're usually good.
Not always.
Today they are... great.
Yeah, I think both great.
Great. It's very exciting. Sometimes they're uneven, sometimes they're bad, but I think they're just like great today.
There's always a lot to talk about, Dick Ward.
Yes.
No matter what.
Kate Phillips, as the co-host of Cellmates podcast. Wait, I am Dick Ward. You are Kate Phillips.
Yep.
As a co-host of Cellmates podcast, I am excited to talk about these two movies. But first, I would like to talk about what we got in these glasses here.
Well,
can you hear it slishing around?
No.
No.
So, I would like to christen this drink the Holy Trinity.
The Holy Golpes.
It's got 3 ingredients in
Trace
it.
Trinity. Trace
It's
Golpes.
got Saint Germain.
Why
a
did you
French
wait,
liquor.
Nope. Why did you say it that way?
That's how it would be pronounced in French. It should be like
Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain.
It's Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain. Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain.
It's a produit de France.
I'm just gonna
De
detract.
France.
I'm gonna detract right now. Recently, Kate and I went to Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit.
And she would not stop
Wait.
saying.
Pointe-Loubarc.
Yeah, she would not stop saying city names in French.
Yeah.
It's Pointe-aux-Barques.
Pointe-aux-Barques.
Sorry. You know what?
We were so close to Canada.
Yeah.
They speak French.
We weren't so close to French Canada. We were close to English Canada.
That is true.
Thank you. So, Saint Germain, a product of France. Please continue.
And it's a saint thing. We got mango hibiscus iced tea in this. Both are popular ingredients in the country Egypt.
Ooh.
And then we've got jasmine and rose gin because we thought it would go well with this.
Jasmine. So we're doing Aladdin. I think we already did that, though.
And rose.
Are we doing
like
Return of
Beauty
Jafar?
and the Beast? No, we are not.
So Egypt and France.
Egypt, France, and a third thing so that I could call it a holy trinity.
So Egypt is, I think like crocodiles or alligators. You put like a crocodile in like a French sort of situation, and you've got like Cajun.
You could.
But what are we really doing? I'm sorry.
So Saint Germain and the Holy Trinity, you're thinking like churches and religions. And so today we are traveling to France and Egypt and religious heritages of, is heritages the plural of heritage?
Heritoi.
And we are talking about The Hunchback of Notre Dame and The Prince of Egypt.
That's correct.
These are two of my legit favorite animated movies and kind of favorite movies.
No. I just want to make it clear to the fans that Notre Dame is correct, and that is the title of the movie. That's not just Kate doing French.
No.
We are not watching the amazing 90s kind of boob comedy, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where there's like a hunchback that plays football at Notre Dame. We didn't watch that.
Is that real?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't watch Comedy Central as much as I did.
Bad.
There were some
Did
bad
that come out
movies.
after the Disney movie of like,
Oh,
haha?
no.
No, before.
No, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's also
We
too
can watch
bad.
that this afternoon, though.
Anyway, so the drinks suggest some pairing rationale.
Yep.
These are both movies that have some religious themes.
That's right.
One is plucked directly from the Bible.
Hunchback?
The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo. It's a chapter of the. It's in the apocryphal tomes of the Bible. The book of
that's
Quasimodo.
In like the third book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Notre Dame is a cathedral in France, and there are themes of religion and
Yes.
sanctuary and all of that in Hunchback. And
I mean, the main figures live or work in a church.
in a church, yeah.
Like, aside from Esmeralda, everyone works for the church or in
Or,
a
like,
church or lives in a church.
With the church, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of church. And then, of course, Prince of Egypt is the story of Moses from the Old Testament of the Bible.
Or the Testament, depending on your
I guess it would have
system.
just been called Testament at that point,
I mean, it was...
before there was a new one.
I don't think they'd written it yet at
No,
that point.
no,
So they
they
just
had
called it...
Life.
They just called it food,
They
I
just
think,
called it
over
this-
there.
What?
It was a weird joke.
That was, I don't think that was a joke.
It was.
Food.
Yeah, like, you don't call Chinese food food. When you're in China, you just call it food.
Yeah, but we're talking about a book.
I know. I went from A to D.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's funny to me.
So there are religious themes in both these movies. They are both very serious, and one could
Yeah.
argue, certainly based on certain scenes, they are not necessarily kids' movies,
Yeah.
even though they were more or less, well, to different degrees marketed as such.
Yeah, I would argue that these movies are not, like, kids' movies, but they're not, like, adult movies. Like,
Right. It's not like the South Park movie or something, which
Yeah, which
also is marketed to kids, but
But yeah, it's not like a movie that's like, hey, this is an adult movie. Get the
Mm-hmm.
kids out of here. It's like, no, it's a movie.
right.
It's just
Yeah.
a serious
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
And like, not that Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid are specifically kids movies.
They are not.
But these are just like, I don't know. I think both of these aim at a older, more mature audience.
Yeah.
That's like more interested in these specific stories.
Yeah, their source materials are not fairy tales, which has been a lot of what's happened so far
Right.
in terms of animation. They come from a Victor Hugo novel and a Bible.
A Bible novel.
And a Bible.
A Bible.
Novel. So let's dive in.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Dick, what is your history with the Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Not much of one.
Really?
I saw it at some point. Did I see it with you for the first time?
I think you had seen it before. The time that you saw it with me, like 2 years ago, was me being like, no, this is a good movie. You don't hate this movie.
Yeah, I might have seen it before then. I don't know when. It didn't, like, the first time I saw it, it didn't leave a big impression, I guess. I think we'll get into it more, but I think there are some tone issues that make it hard to take this movie seriously sometimes. But like, yeah, rewatching it, and I think more than rewatching it with you, re-listening to it. I think you like played me the score on like a road trip, and I was like, okay, we can watch this again.
Okay.
Yeah, like I knew Hellfire, I still remembered that, but I forgot like how good the rest of the music,
Yeah, songs and score. Yeah.
songs and score, how good the rest of the music in this movie was. Yeah.
Hunchback for me was like one of my favorites growing up. It was kind of that, it was the third and kind of last movie that my brother and I liked equally based on the ages we were at and like what we were into. Like Lion King was his first movie that he was old enough to like appreciate and sing along to. And then so this kind of was the end of the arc of Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback.
So this was a theater movie for
This
you.
was definitely a theater movie. We actually got surprised by our family seeing
Aw.
this movie. We went to Burger King for dinner.
I was going to ask.
And
yeah.
got some Hunchback toys, and we're like, okay, cool, we haven't seen this. And then my parents surprised us, and then we drove into the theater, and it was like 8:45, and we've never seen a movie this late before. We got like a 9 o'clock showing
Nice.
of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I assume like opening weekend-ish. So, yeah, we saw it. I loved it. I loved the music. I love
Jolly.
Jolly. I do.
For someone who does not care about pets.
No, I don't
you-
care about real animals.
You love animal sidekicks.
I really like animated animals.
Yeah,
Again,
they're
I
awesome.
don't have to clean up their poop. That's high marks.
It's true. Yeah.
I will say one of the things about this first viewing was my mom leaned over to me in the middle of the song Out There and said, "Did you see Belle?" And I said, "No." And it like kind of ruined the viewing. I missed, there's a cameo of a little animated
she's
Belle.
walking through the little town.
Walking through the streets of Paris, which doesn't make a lot of sense. There's
French.
been, yeah, but Paris is the town she's bored of.
No.
So this is like after there. Anyway, there's been discussion on
she's
when.
just walking around Paris reading a book. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Anyway,
she's a book kid.
I was pissed that I missed it. Like I feel like we saw the movie a second time in theaters.
No.
Probably sooner than we would have because I probably wouldn't stop bothering
About seeing
my
Belle.
family. I just need to see it again. We can
That's
leave
correct.
after that song. It's fine.
We're gonna get into the what happened after these movies more, and the movies that followed them. But do you feel like the really, really long Scar cameo in Hercules was in response to that?
So they'd been doing cameos
They've
for
been doing
a while.
like little slip 'em in.
Beast and Sebastian and Pinocchio are all in Aladdin. Lion King does not have cameos because it knows what it is. Pocahontas does not have cameos.
I'm pretty sure Jiminy Cricket is somewhere in there.
Is somewhere something that
He's one of the cricket noises.
He's one of the bugs that Simba eats.
That's right.
Oh no.
Is Simba's in Pocahontas now? Nothing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Oh, you're talking about Pocahontas.
It's all right.
Yeah, so I guess it's Aladdin and Hunchback and Hercules that have the cameos. Mrs. Potts is in the trash in the camp scene in Tarzan,
Aw.
but not with a face. It's just a pot that looks like her.
Oh, well, that's good.
It's like a tea set
I
that
don't
looks
want her
like
to
her
get
and Chip.
trashed. She's great.
Yeah, Disney cameos. That's a weird.
It's a weird thing.
That didn't happen every movie. Anyway.
Yeah. Pixar cameos stuff that's not theirs, which
Yeah.
I think is really cool.
And they cameoed their own stuff too.
Yeah. I don't know. You put a Totoro in a movie, I'm interested like 10% more immediately.
2 Totoros, 20%.
Yeah. Well, it's it's like 11%. It's multiplicative.
Oh,
multiplicative.
10%
So
of
it's just
10%,
another
yeah.
10%.
Okay.
On top of the already
Cool.
10%.
I was about to set a cookie timer
I think
for
it's
this
a
summary,
great time to
but
set
I
a
was just
cookie
going to
timer.
hit the button that my phone home screen presented to me, which would be playing Hakuna Matata from the original
you
Lion
mean-
King
you mean
soundtrack.
Seth Rogen warbling his way through it.
Oh my gosh. So we have not seen The Lion King yet. It's not out for another week. And also, we're not paying theaters money for that.
We have no intention
No.
of paying for it. We will watch it on Disney+.
We will watch it without paying for it specifically. But we just listened to the song portions of the soundtrack.
Kate, what's your hot take?
I don't.
That's correct.
The arrangements are really good. The instrumentation and orchestration makes more sense than the Aladdin soundtrack.
Sure.
Another movie we are not paying for, but we will see. Some of it's fine. Billy Eichner sounds great.
He can sing okay.
He's no Nathan Lane.
No.
It's just like these scores, Hunchback included, are just so imprinted on my brain that like hearing someone else sing it, like it needs to be a stage version or
We've talked about this. We would not mind seeing this like as a live Hollywood Bowl
Hollywood Bowl.
performance.
Put Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen in. Some of Seth Rogen's asides are fun.
Yeah, but that boy can't sing.
No, but this is the same thing of like when Will Smith is doing his stuff, it's fun when he gets to be Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's fun when Seth Rogen gets to be Seth Rogen, but I feel like he was heavily directed to do an Ernie Sabella.
But also at that
Impression.
point, like, you can get singing voices for actors. This is something Disney has done forever.
Yeah.
Get a singing voice to hit that
He
note
is
for
not,
Seth.
So I think one, Seth Rogen is probably not a great singer, but also I think they leaned into it,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. And I think for that character can work. They didn't make
Doesn't
it work.
work.
They didn't make it work, but I understand the directorial choice.
Give Billy Eichner that note, then.
Yeah,
Like,
give Billy Eichner the note.
Okay.
Or like make it a joke. I'm going to redo this. Anyway, we'll do Lion King at another point.
The point is, the soundtrack is pretty bad. I expect the movie is also pretty bad.
It's good when it just sounds like the soundtrack.
Yeah, like
Lebo opening the.
Just give me a Lebo. Just give me a Lebo. All right, Kate, do you have a cookie timer?
I got a cookie timer set up now.
All right, so we're going to talk about The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, we're going to talk about...
I'll always talk about The Lion King.
That's true. Hunchback of Notre.
All right.
You got 2 minutes. Go.
What makes a monster? What makes a man? This is what we're trying to find out in this story, even though it's kind of given away in the first song. Anyway, you're introduced to Paris and get a little backstory that this baby was delivered by gypsies to Frollo's doorstep, and Frollo kills the gypsies and is about to kill the baby. He's deformed, but the bishop stops him and says, nope, think about God. And so he traps him in a bell tower and kind of raises him. It doesn't let him die at any point.
Yeah, kind of.
So anyway, there's according to Frollo, a gypsy problem in Paris. They're running around being poor and ruining things. And he wants to kill the gypsies. He meets this gypsy at the Festival of Fools that Quasimodo escapes the bell tower to go to because he just wants one day out there. And Gypsy Esmeralda dances and doesn't mean to, but ends up seducing Frollo. And Frollo gets obsessed. Quasimodo wins the Feast of Fools funny face contest, but then he doesn't have a funny face. That's just how his face looks. And then he gets pelted with tomatoes and falsely figures out that I just belong in the bell tower. No face as hideous as my face was ever meant for heaven's light. Frollo becomes obsessed with Esmeralda and says she's going to be mine or she will burn, and starts chasing her through Paris. She claims sanctuary for a while, makes friends with Quasimodo, but then she can't be trapped because she's a gypsy, and she escapes. And then Frollo tries to he literally sets Paris on fire trying to smoke her out. He finds her. Phoebus is there. He helps, but he's not as important. Anyway, he captures Esmeralda, is about to burn her. Quasimodo saves her, claims sanctuary for her again. She almost dies, but doesn't. And then Quasimodo ends up kind of letting Frollo fall to his death. He doesn't get the girl, but it's okay because he gets acceptance from Paris.
Okay, you didn't make it in 2 minutes, but you dropped like several song titles in there, so I'm going to give you 10 points.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
10 cool points.
10 cool points. That's true.
Yeah.
That's like 10 cents.
Hey.
Yeah.
Really? Aren't we getting 10,000 cool points for our Smart AC?
Oh, yeah, no.
That's a lot more cents.
Sorry, 10 cool points is a tenth of a cent.
Yeah, that's more correct.
That's the movie.
Yeah, the plot is more about Esmeralda than anyone else.
Yeah.
She's yeah.
Our Quasimodo does not have a ton of agency. He
does not.
He is more of a traditional Disney princess.
He's the
in
Belle.
This movie.
Yeah.
He is absolutely the Belle.
Yeah.
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 And he hangs out with bells.
And Words.
One thing I want to throw out, and I noticed this a lot, and I'm struggling to figure out whether there's a better way to have done this. We're throwing the word gypsy out a lot.
We are. That's not a. Yeah.
That's the movie is throwing out the word gypsy a lot, and gypsy is not the term which the Romani people prefer to be referred to.
They're Romani people.
So it's interesting, but in whatever 14th century France or whatever, they probably would have been called gypsies.
And I assume that's from the book.
Yeah.
I have not read The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, but I assume that's the term that's scattered throughout the book.
Does Esmeralda call herself she calls herself an outcast a lot?
Yeah, she uses my people more than anything else.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of gypsy going on.
Yeah. Oh. I'm trying to think what Clopin says in the Court of Miracles song. I don't think he uses the word gypsy either. But that would be interesting to go back and look at.
If he did, I feel like Clopin absolutely would.
Yeah, he would reclaim it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just an interesting thing about that movie. Really good. That's the other interesting thing. Really
I love this movie.
Good.
This viewing, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've probably listened to the soundtrack, maybe not like full score, but like the songs from the soundtrack, at least like all the way through, at least 4 times as many times as I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Like I've probably seen the movie somewhere between 7 and 10 times, but I've listened to the soundtrack a lot more.
Yeah.
And so when I'm seeing scenes as I'm listening to the soundtrack, I'm like, yes, this is like Disney's best movie after Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. And then you see it and it keeps on undermining itself.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more Looney Tunes sound effects in this movie than I remember. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this recently. So it's hard to watch the movie when you're like, oh, this song, and then it keeps on panning to the gargoyles doing dumb things. And I'm like, just let Quasimodo sing the damn song. Like,
yeah, there's a real tonal issue when, yeah, like you said, like Quasimodo is singing this beautiful song.
Never meant for heaven to lie.
And then like, I got hit in the groin.
Yeah, it's...
Like, it's like, I was saying this when we were watching the movie. It's like you're trying to have a serious conversation with someone who is uncomfortable having a serious conversation, so they keep making jokes.
Yes.
And it's like, cool, I hate this.
Yeah.
So like Heaven's Light is a great song. It's okay in the movie because it keeps getting
interrupted. Yeah.
They don't let me feel it. They're just like, okay, that's enough of that. Hold on. Here's a goofy thing. Okay, back to the serious.
Too much feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas when they do like Hellfire, it's not interrupted and it's very effective.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's just like yeah. It's intimate. It's so strong.
Yeah.
I love Hellfire so much.
Yeah, serious scenes and I feel like action scenes get that same treatment. Just like let it be an action scene.
Yeah.
You don't need bonking sounds.
I don't
for the
mind.
guards.
I don't mind a little comedy in an action scene, like especially like a goofier, like a less serious action scene.
Yeah.
I feel like they didn't do bonking during like the burning down of the people's house.
No, that's
right?
true.
So like they restrained themselves at some points, but not at others, and it becomes a mishmash.
Yeah.
And I think Lindsay Ellis, right, had a great video on Hunchback, where she talks about the marketing of it and how it's marketed as a kids movie, and we'll touch on this.
We'll touch on that. What was not as much marketed as a kids movie is The Prince of Egypt.
That's true. Also, The Terminator was not marketed as a
there
kids
are
movie.
many movies in existence not marketed as kids movies.
Yeah. Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt.
What's your experience with this movie?
So we saw this in theaters. It was a little like, oh, we're not seeing a Disney movie, but we had seen Anastasia, so that that had already been broken a little bit. I didn't like it as a kid.
Really?
I didn't care for it. We love the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I had the soundtrack, but I feel like I didn't even listen to every song on the soundtrack. This was one that got a lot of fast forwarding and rewinding.
Yeah, it's some skips.
Yeah. So I remember coming. I mean, this is it's Christmas '98, so I'm 11. And yeah, I remember walking out of it like, they're not Disney. Like that was kind of there was some cool stuff in this, but I don't care about this movie. It wasn't until I watched it as an adult where my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Like, this is better than a lot of Disney, even that was being produced especially that was being produced at the immediate time of 1998. But it's
was that like Tarzan year?
It was, yeah. So it came out between Mulan and Tarzan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mulan is good. It's not Prince of Egypt.
It's a solid Mulan.
It's a solid Mulan. It's its own tier. Yeah, I love this movie as an adult. I think it's pretty flawless. And I had remembered tonal issues that I made up, I think. I had remembered, like, oh, well, they try to make the Steve Martin Short priests funny. No, they don't. Like,
yeah, not really.
It's not. The humor is done really well.
They controlled Martin Short.
Yeah.
Good for them.
An animated movie controlled Martin Short.
We're looking at you, Treasure Planet.
This is the only one. All right. Dick, what is your experience with The Prince of Egypt?
I saw this in theaters.
Yeah.
I was 16 at the time, so like my friend and I went to the movies to see this. It looked great, and I loved it at the time. Like, I think I kind of forgot about it a couple of years later and then revisited it. I think this is the first time I've seen it since the theater. Maybe I've seen it once since. But like, I remembered all the scenes. I remembered most of the songs. It stuck with me in a way that I didn't realize it did. We've listened to the soundtrack to this as well, or at least songs from it.
Yeah.
You know, because you put a Brian Stokes Mitchell in something, I'm gonna listen to it.
Stokes.
So I saw it in theaters, loved it. I did not see Mulan in theaters. I didn't see Tarzan in theaters. This was marketed in a way, and this movie, I mean, clearly it's made for someone who wants to watch like something serious.
Yeah. That's
something good.
That's interesting that this drew you to the theaters.
Oh yeah.
But not like, do you remember what about the marketing? Because you don't like, I think even as a kid, you wouldn't have described yourself as like religious. I feel like our family, part of the reason we saw it was like, we're Bible people. Like I mean, also it was an animated movie, but
yeah, I'm not a churchgoer. But it looked awesome. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I love the Ten Commandments as a movie.
Okay.
I love those big epics, like the biblical epics, Cleopatra. I'm pretty sure I saw like my dad exposed me to like epics when I was a kid, so that probably has something to do with it. Like those big like 3-hour movies with like 200,000 extras just in a line walking, and Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur was a movie that I loved and I saw in theaters multiple times.
The movies that you are listing, the title is like, I don't know if you see my eyes glazing over.
Oh yeah, I saw you looking down at your knee. I'm like, oh, my knee is pretty interesting.
Like I remember those types of movies being on like, I don't know, Saturday at a random time, and it was like, it would be on in the back. I don't know if my dad was like interested in it, kind of in a halfway, but
okay, but let me present this to you. Ben-Hur is a movie that was filmed in like Canada Vision at the Epcot Pavilion. So
oh really?
Yeah. So when movies first started, they were kind of square, right? And then TVs started happening, and then movies were like, oh, we got to do something TVs can't. So that's when they started doing all these like longer aspect ratios.
Okay.
Ben-Hur was in like Mega Spectravision or something.
Okay.
So like it's like 3 screens wide in the theater. It's ridiculous wide. It's probably not 3 screens, but it's ridiculous wide.
So you've got a lot of like black ribbon. Is that?
Well, there's not a black ribbon because
okay.
It's just screens. So we saw this on like a restoration on like the correct screen ratio.
Did it have that at the time? Like were theaters building that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I guess. Look.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I might be speaking out of my ass here. Because it just
that
occurred,
never happens on this podcast with either of us.
It just occurred to me that Ben-Hur was probably not extra wide in response to TV, but I think it was just as a way to get more people into the theater. But like it's amazing to watch something like this giant and immersive in the theater, even though like 90% of it is really slow and boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. So that's the kind of thing that I remembered. Like I think that's the sense memory when I saw the preview for Prince of Egypt. I'm like, oh, it's one of these movies.
Well, and that's the creative team was specifically thinking of those movies.
Well, they said they were inspired by David Lean, who did.
You would look this up. It's
did.
all you.
Oh my God, Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay, yeah.
And
others.
Others, but like Lawrence of Arabia is a clear influence here.
Cool. So Dick,
yeah,
are you?
I was excited about this movie.
Are you prepared to cookie timer this musical movie? I don't know where my mouth was going.
Musical, the musical, Susical. Yes. Sorry. By that I meant yes.
Mosical.
Yeah. Mosesical?
Mosesical.
All right, done.
Oh, I have a good story about this
Okay.
after you're done with the cookie timer. All right. Ready, set, go.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So, There's this baby. His name's Moses. Egyptians are like, hey, we're going to kill all your babies, Hebrews, that we keep as slaves. And mom of Moses is like, yep, not mine. She puts him in a basket, puts him in a river. Baby drifts down a crazy, deep, treacherous river, ends up in like Cleopatra's house. Not Cleopatra, but you know what I mean.
Pharaoh.
He ends up in Pharaoh's house. And gets adopted as one of their own. He's raised as an Egyptian, kind of like a prince-ish sort of thing. And he is having fun doing his thing. He ends up meeting his, for realsies, sister. And she's like, yo, you're one of us. And he's like, nah, that ain't right. She's like, yo, go ask the man you call father. He talks to his dad. He's like, oh, crap. That's right. I'm a Hebrew. So he's like, cool, I'm out of here. And he goes and like follows this lady that he met who was like offered to him. He like follows her into like the desert and he meets his people that he was born of. And then he meets this bush that's on fire and it's God. And God's like, yo, yeah, you know what? Maybe free your people from slavery. And he's like, yeah, okay. He goes to Ramses. Ramses is like, nope. And Moses is like, well, I guess like 7 plagues. There's like frogs, there's blood, there's fire raining from the sky, there's ghosts that kill babies, just like the thing that started off this story. Anyway, Ramses eventually is like, all right, you people can go. Moses is like, dope. And then they head off. Ramses is like, oh, you know what? Nope, we're going to come kill you. Moses is like, I'm going to part the sea. They walk through the sea. Ramses brings his army in the sea. Moses closes the sea on him, or I guess God does, and kills all of the people. And then the Hebrews are free. Cookies are done.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe you said this and I wasn't listening.
I did.
Who's Ramesses?
He's like the Pharaoh guy.
Does he have any other connection to Moses?
No? Like they were raised as brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a little lost. That's okay.
Look, if anyone really needs,
Once I called you brother.
If anyone really needs a better summary of this story, you can look at the Book of Exodus in the Bible, or watch this movie.
Yeah,
because it's great.
Yeah.
Ernie Sabella is not in this.
Ernie Sabella is not in either of these movies.
It's a shame,
and they suffer for it.
He would have been a good gargoyle.
Yeah, I mean,
just putting it out there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this movie is so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. Like, so, little history. This is DreamWorks' second movie after Ants with a Z. That was released like within months of A Bug's Life. Very coincidentally, no one stole any plans.
It's like the Armageddon to Bug's Life's Deep Impact.
Yeah, we had no idea you were making a movie
called
Finding Nemo when we did the Shark's Tale.
Bug movie?
So DreamWorks is a baby company at this point. It started by...
Like a Boss Baby company?
Like a Boss Baby company.
Aww.
Is it? I think that one's DreamWorks too, isn't it?
Oh, that might be true. I have no way of knowing.
So it's Jeffrey Katzenberg,
Yes.
Steven Spielberg, and David Geffen.
That's correct.
The
Good
songs guy. Right? Geffen Records is
Yes.
David. Yeah.
Yes, the songs guy.
The songs guy. They start an animation company. And Jeffrey Katzenberg, of course, worked at Disney through like the best of their renaissance. He leaves after Lion King.
Yeah.
And he had never done animation before. He really wanted to be live action. Like,
And we are going to give Jeffrey Katzenberg a lot of crap. We've given him a lot of crap. We'll continue to give him a lot of crap.
but it has to be with...
Oh, man. He was there
Here's
for
the thing.
those movies.
The movies were better when Jeffrey Katzenberg was there.
It's true.
I think... So, right. He wanted to be making live action movies. Got stuck with this animation department. Didn't know anything about it. Learned a lot in the years he was there.
Water's blue.
Pushed back. Drove people nuts. Like, I think everyone... It seems like the theme... Everyone who's worked with Jeffrey Katzenberg is like, yeah, I hate that guy. I hated working with him. Also, he helped me make my best work.
It's like he's the worst person.
Yes.
Have you seen The Little Mermaid? That's the work that happened under him.
Yeah. And so I think his kind of adversarial what Lindsay Ellis refers to as the petty asshole.
Yes.
Nature. It's a great meme gif.
He's a real prick.
I think that pushback really helped. My take on it is that really helped the animators and the creative team really chisel and like fine tune exactly what they wanted to be able to argue it to him. Because there would be situations where he's like, no, part of your world is boring. And so the animators and the composers had to make a better case for it and like really know why they were making the decisions they made. And I feel like that pushback is maybe missing later. And so things end up in the movie that are not in their best form or like half baked kind of. So for me, the absence of Jeffrey Katzenberg is felt in the gargoyles in Hunchback.
It is a visible absence.
So you've given the gargoyles a hard time since we started. Like, I feel like one of the reasons I made you watch Hunchback with me 2 years ago was like, the gargoyles are not as bad as you think. And I'm not sure that I convinced you at that point.
No,
but
you haven't convinced me yet. They're as bad as I think.
But they're not as movie ruining as I think you might have thought before.
That's fair. That's fair.
They're pretty contained.
It's like once you've been in the cold water for a while, you're a little numb to it. So like if I was watching the movie for the first time, maybe the gargoyles would ruin it for me again. But I've seen it a couple times. I know when to tune out. Yeah. It's fine. So
the gargoyles are there because every Disney movie needs comedic relief, right? And so I guess, I mean, so this movie is more serious. The novel, very serious, very dark. There's a murder in the first song, which is only like 6 minutes long.
It's a straight out on-screen murder.
It's an on-screen murder.
At worst, it's like murder in the third, or like manslaughter, right?
Yeah.
He pushes a woman.
Quasimodo's mother.
Yeah. Frollo steals a baby out of her hands and pushes her down. He thinks
it's like stolen goods.
And she falls, hits her head on the stairs.
Bonk.
She's dead. We see that on screen. That is the beginning of this movie.
Yes. It's not a kid's movie, but they sure as hell tried to make it win.
Oh, boy.
So to combat this darkness, and I feel potentially, although like this movie was probably still far along when the reviews for Pocahontas came out. Yes.
Wait,
hello.
real quick.
Raising your hand.
Real quick. I know we're about to talk about the gargoyles.
Yeah.
I just want to make the point that Phoebus is kind of funny. Jolly is just comic relief. Clopin is pretty funny.
So here's right.
I just want to make the point that there already is comic relief built into this movie.
So here's the thing. They thought this movie was... No, this is all connected. They thought this movie was going to be too dark, too serious for the audience that they had built over the past 5 movies.
Yeah.
So, I believe these gargoyles were added for like a... And now there's some lightness.
Yeah.
Fine. Like, Timon and Pumbaa are there, and they help in the third act.
Right after Mufasa gets murdered.
Yes. That's great. They do that hula thing in the middle of Scar burning the Pride Lands. That works really well.
Yeah.
There's a case for this, and I get it. And as I was watching this time, I think I said to you, like after they had made their like a Three Stooges joke, there's just too many jokes in the gargoyle scenes. So they're presented as like it's highly possible. You're not told outright one way or the other. It's highly possible that these are Quasimodo's imaginary friends, that these gargoyles are not actually like moving and animated, because every time it's like a Toy Story. Every time someone who's not Quasimodo comes in the room, another human character, they turn back to stone. So it's kind of like the voices in his head, or like a world he's created being isolated up in the bell tower. It's not quite as clear as it could be, and I think they could have done more things with it. But as someone for Quasimodo to play off of in his solo scenes, I think it's a good idea. And I think what I said when I was during this last viewing is, this is not a story problem. It is a writing problem. Mm-hmm. Just whoever was writing the script scenes just put in like 40 to 70% too many jokes.
No, we saw not too long ago a stage production of Hunchback, and I feel like it did the gargoyles better, but not
better, but not any more effective.
but not any more effective. But like
yeah.
the gargoyles can be 3 different aspects of Quasimodo's personality.
Yeah.
And I think that can work.
Yeah.
They can be like the angel and the devil on his shoulders.
Yes.
And I think that can work. But they're kind of just like an obnoxious family.
And in the stage production?
No, in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're kind of an obnoxious family.
Yeah.
Like it's like your mom and your like uncle and your other uncle or
They're
something.
most effective when they like give a good line encouraging him to do something that he was on the fence about.
Yeah. That's when they're really really good. Like getting him out to the
Feast of Fools
or the Festival of Fools.
It's interchangeable.
It's called both. Really really effective. You know, convincing him.
We're
like
just made of stone. We thought you were made of something stronger. It's a great line.
And like convincing him that Esmeralda is interested in him, I think it is interesting. And I think it could have been done better, but like it's like those voices in his head being like, "Oh man, maybe she's into me." Like,
yeah,
I think there are some effective moments for the gargoyles. I really do. But overall,
and there's no like what is it, Charles something, the guy from News Radio. That guy, no, not News Radio. That's Phil Hartman. Who's that guy from Murphy Brown? He's the serious one on Murphy Brown. I think is the serious gargoyle.
oh okay.
He's kind of the straight man, but he also like makes funny cartoon sounds. Like he gets stuck in a bucket. I feel like they're all funny, and Jason Alexander is the most outrageous because he's just Jason Alexander.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all making jokes, and it's not even one kind of joke. Like,
and I said to you that the serious one is to Sam the Eagle.
Yes.
And you said, yeah, he should be more Bert.
Yeah.
And he should be more like if we're having a straight man.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be Quasi. We need a straight man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I think the hyenas work well as a trio. Because there's one who does, like, they have one trick, right? Ed has one trick.
Yeah, mean one, dumb one, crazy one.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. You have to balance it. And I feel like all 3 of them get kind of equal time.
Goofy one.
Yeah, goofy one, serious goofy one, wise goofy one.
Yeah.
It's kind of, yeah. So
I do want to say, though, I hate Jason Alexander in this movie. I hate him even more on the behind the scenes.
They do this thing by 1996 where they've got someone hosting their behind the scenes thing, and it's less interesting and more commercial.
Yeah.
Like this, I mean, I think it was a Disney Channel special of like, come see this movie. We got Jason Alexander.
But
Jason Alexander.
I want to say I love him as Duckman.
Ooh.
No, a different duck thing.
Ooh.
Okay. Duckman is a cartoon made for adults. It was on USA. He is loud and obnoxious, and he's supposed to be loud and obnoxious, and you kind of like and hate the character for that. And Jason Alexander's screamy voice, it works. It's great.
Yep.
But oh man, do I hate him in this.
So here's the thing. Jason Alexander did the job he was paid to do.
Oh yeah, they hired Jason Alexander. He gave them Jason Alexander.
I don't blame him. I blame the writing. He didn't write the line, "I'm losing to a bird."
Oh man,
but he says it well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk about tone as a whole between these 2 movies because they're both serious, and they know they're serious.
Yeah.
Disney tries to do one thing. They try to just
Hunchback like switches back and
forth. They try to like balance a seesaw, and it just ends up the seesaw goes out of control.
But Prince of Egypt, like, there's jokes in it.
There
right?
are jokes.
There's like, and I think it's a lot of them are like action movie kind of jokes, like banter. Like at the beginning, like Ramses and Moses are racing, and they've got like hey, do you want to have your face on a wall? Yeah, one day. How about now? And then he rams into him to smush him. There's like banter, and it's not like laugh out loud, but it's like there's humor.
There's humor. Yeah.
The characters are like they joke with each other, they have fun, they're very alive characters.
Yeah, I feel like Prince of Egypt has humor, Hunchback has jokes.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
And this ties back to like when we were starting to talk about Jeffrey Katzenberg, he wanted to make live action when he got to Disney.
Yeah.
And I feel like this movie in particular is him now coming to DreamWorks after all this experience at Disney and being like, look, I still want to make live action movie, but now I know a lot about animation, so we can do this.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they made a live action kind of along the lines, different tone, but like kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean, where like it's a great action movie. It is also funny. Like Pirates is funnier, but it's an animated version of that.
Well, we've talked about K, and G, I think, just throws the money in.
Yeah, I think.
Let's talk about S.
Let's talk about S.
So
SKG
Spielberg,
is the DreamWorks.
Yeah, DreamWorks SKG is
at this point.
Spielberg, Katzenberg, Geffen. Spielberg is involved in this movie.
All over this movie.
Like, even before, we watched the behind the scenes, and we saw Steven give a little direction. And I was like, okay, good. But
like, he's in the storyboard rooms, at least when the camera's there.
But before that, as we're watching this, like, there were some moments where I was like, oh, it's Spielberg.
Yeah.
That's a Spielberg moment. Like, if he didn't do it, then someone wanted to do a Spielberg moment.
And there are these little things, right? Like, when they're starting to exit Egypt after Ramesses gives the first go-ahead. Yeah. There's this, like, old woman who, like, she trips or something, and a little girl helps her. And, like, they're strangers, right? Yeah. Like, it's made clear. And then there's, like, 2 more times, like, one, like, at the end of that Exodus scene where, like, you see the old lady and the girl dancing together, and you're like, oh, they both made it.
Yeah.
And then when they're doing the Red Sea crossing, you see them again helping each other, and it's just this touchstone. It's a little story
that's interwoven.
Yeah.
That these characters don't have names, they don't have dialogue, but you see them and you see a story, and it's just beautiful.
It reminds me, in a much happier tone, of the red shoes in Schindler's List, where you see it on the girl and then you see it not on the girl.
Yeah, but I would say this movie like is almost Indiana Jones in tone. Like it's not as like adventure action-y, but like there's not jokes, but there's like quips. There's not like, it's not over serious, but it's serious.
When I think it does.
No one's necessarily, like, none of our heroes are dying.
Yeah.
They're always in danger. Like, there's a real consistent feeling to this movie.
Yeah, because I think what they were trying to do with the gargoyles, and with, like, some of Phoebus's lines are dumb. Like, if it was just Phoebus, that was, like, the kind of low comedy point of it, it's fine. But, like, additively, you're like, oh, okay, this is, like...
You're sick of it by the time Phoebus starts doing it.
Right. I think what the main goal is, like, relief, right? Like, a little bit of, like, de-stress before you go back into, like, the really... deep, like, dark stuff. And I think what Prince of Egypt does really well is they just have lighter scenes. Yeah. And it's not necessarily comedy, jokes, humor, but, like, when Moses meets Zipporah's family, like, he's wondering, like they make some jokes. She's kind of, like, teasing with her younger siblings or nephews or whatever it is. And it's not necessarily laugh out loud funny, but it's lighter. There's less tension. It's like tension and release, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
It reminds me a little bit of, like, a really good video game, like an RPG where you're, like, going from town to town and dungeon to dungeon. Like, you start out in your main city, and then it feels less safe. And, like, but when we go to, like, that camp, that's where it's safe. Yeah. You can walk around. You're not going to encounter any enemies. Yes. You're just kind of having a good time. It feels like it feels like home. Yes. At that point. Yeah. And it's just, can we just talk about Heaven's Eyes now?
Let's talk about, so here's, we always kind of write out before what we want to talk about. And, the first bullet point for talking points was tone. And then the second bullet point in all cap letters is Steven Schwartz.
So Stephen Schwartz, you don't know him.
You've never heard of him.
What is that from? There's a behind
So
the
it's
scenes.
from Pocahontas. Howard Ashman was Alan Menken's writing partner for the first three movies.
Yeah.
He passed away in the middle of the making of Aladdin. Tim Rice is added at that point, but after that, Tim Rice is doing other things, with Andrew or Lloyd Webber, maybe. But so they bring in Stephen Schwartz as quote unquote lyricist for Pocahontas and a Hunchback. I hear a little bit more than lyrics in the way these scores are treated, but anyway, he's the lyricist.
Everyone needs a job title.
Everyone needs a job title. So in the Pocahontas special features, they're talking about Academy Award-winning Alan Menken from The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and Tony winner Stephen Schwartz. Period. They don't mention any of his projects.
And in fairness, this is pre-Wicked.
It is pre-Wicked, but he's got Pippin, he's got Godspell.
And one of the songs from Godspell was a radio hit.
People know Godspell. Not everyone knows Pippin, but people know Godspell.
My mom or my uncle or someone. No. I think my mom walked the aisle at her wedding to Day by Day.
Yeah.
That was big.
Yeah.
You can mention.
But
you can mention Godspell and Pippin.
It's 2 or 3 times in that featurette that they're Alan Menken, blah 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 blah, and Stephen Schwartz. It's basically you haven't heard of him, but he's here.
Stephen Schwartz wrote the music for Hunchback and Prince of Egypt.
Well, he was the lyricist
for Hunchback.
You can hear
credited as writing the music.
Right, Alan Menken.
Is it Menken?
Yeah.
That's weird to me.
Really?
I'm sorry. I forgot.
So,
I literally forgot that it wasn't just Stephen Schwartz.
So I love Howard Ashman, more than anything, right?
He's amazing.
I think Alan Menken does his most sophisticated work with Stephen Schwartz.
I think that's a great way of putting it.
And we saw this in one of the Hunchback special features or something, that this partnership, Alan Menken says, we bring out things in each other, or maybe Stephen Schwartz says we bring out the best in each other, and I think that's absolutely true.
The opening song of Hunchback is just so good, and the fact that it raps at the end.
Yeah, it's the most comparable Disney composition is Belle to the Bells of Notre Dame, the opening to Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's
Oh, okay.
It's a 6-minute song. You're looking at multiple characters. You're introducing everyone. It's this kind of big opening number. There are a couple of different ways to open a Broadway show effectively, and Happy Village, quote unquote, is one of them. But this is Happy Village on the next level.
This is I feel like it's a mix between Belle and the opening song from Aladdin, where it's I'm a third party.
Yeah.
I may or may not be involved. Clopin ends up being involved, but you don't know at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that character in Aladdin is supposed to be the genie, maybe.
Well, he was, and then they wrote it out.
So it's I might be involved later, but it's a third party giving you hey,
here's the setup.
Here is my view of all of this. Or here's let me tell you the truth. Whereas Belle is everyone else's different opinions.
Yes,
so it's interesting.
It's first person narrative
a mix
versus third.
of both. It is so good.
And he's so good. Clopin is on the same character track as leading player.
Yeah. I want to give credit where credit is due. The man's name is Paul Kandel, Kandel. He got a nomination for. He got a Tony nom for Tommy. He played Wicked Uncle Ernie.
Oh.
He was King Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar, where I don't feel like he was directed super well.
No, we saw a clip.
But that man's voice and his performance as Clopin is perfect.
Yeah.
It is amazing that he has not done more animated.
It's brilliant. He's got this high falsetto belt that's
God, that
Bells of Notre Dame, and he just holds it out forever.
And he just has it. It's amazing. And he's got we were saying during the movie, he could be a great Joker.
Yeah.
He could be a great Mad Hatter.
Yeah. Pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got that serious. Yeah. So
Amazing.
there's a lot of great going back to Through Heaven's Eyes. Brian Stokes Mitchell.
Brian Stokes Mitchell.
So this is Prince of Egypt. So Stephen Schwartz did music and lyrics for Prince of Egypt.
Yeah.
They just let him fly.
Good for them.
Disney actually fired him.
They also let him fly.
They also let him fly. They fired him for working on this movie because he had done some demos for Mulan. And then when they realized he was working for DreamWorks, they're like, "Screw you."
They're like, "Can we get a one-hit wonder from the 80s to do the music to this instead of Stephen Schwartz?"
Screw you. We're getting Matthew Wilder.
What?
Anyway, it turned out well for them, just for Make a Man Out of You.
I think maybe Stephen Schwartz just like left that lying on the.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I forgot the sheet music to Man Out of You.
Yeah,
It's
maybe.
fine. It's fine.
This score is incredible. I mean, I think these two scores hold up so well.
And like the like when we say score, like both the like lyric songs and the incidental music, like
very epic.
And playing on themes from different songs that you're about to hear or that you have heard to set the tone. Oh.
And just great. I mean, Menken and Schwartz, I feel like, are the epitome of like, they're just great voice writers. They write these amazing melodies for voices. So you hire someone like Paul Candle or Brian Stokes Mitchell and just go. And it's already written perfectly for their voice. And it's these soaring, affecting, powerful. Like Through Heaven's Eyes is a lighter song in terms of the broad arc of the movie.
Yeah.
But it still has this gravity to it. And it's so good.
Stokes sings for Danny Glover.
Yes.
Paul Candle sings for himself.
Paul Candle.
But there's like Hunchback, I don't think anyone sings for themselves, really.
I think Tom Hulse sings.
Oh, okay.
I think,
Who
Quasimodo.
Who plays Quasimodo?
Actually, everyone but Esmeralda, I think,
Really?
sings. Tony J sings it.
That's fair. Yeah.
Frollo, Quasimodo, Clopin, they're all
pretty good at like getting singers.
Yeah, kind of like Demi Moore was kind of their only stunt cast.
Yeah. And then we've got
and I think she does fine.
Yeah.
And then you have Heidi Mullen something. Broadway singer for the singing voice.
But the Prince of Egypt, I guess we've got more voice replacement, except for Val Kilmer. Who from the behind the scenes, like
he might believe he is actually Moses.
It seems like he would not leave the studio. Like they were like, yeah, we'd call and say like, hey, we need you back for one line, and he'd be like, yeah, I'll be right there.
He's like, I'm already here.
Like that's not a
I just
not
slept
a thing
over.
actors do typically.
He seems very passionate in interviews about this movie and about the work that they're doing, and which is great.
And he insisted on singing his own songs.
Yes,
and
he does a great job.
He did good, yeah. So that was cool to see. Like
I think he and Ray Fiennes sing for themselves. Ray Fiennes is Ramesses.
Oh, nice.
The females are subbed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's Michelle Pfeiffer and Sandra Bullock.
They are not singing.
Yeah, it's interesting because this voice cast is all like Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted to make a live action movie.
Yeah, this is a star-studded.
This is like a who's who of 1998.
I don't know if you
movies.
noticed last night that the sky was completely pitch black because all of the stars were in Prince of Egypt. Thank you.
It's an all-star cast. I feel like the voices are all good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure that Michelle Pfeiffer or Sandra Bullock are necessary.
No,
but they do a good job.
And the cast, let's be honest, is a little bit
it's
white.
very Aladdin.
Yeah.
It's very Steve from Full House.
Katzenberg, it sounds like, hired a bunch of scholars from like Jewish scholars, Muslim scholars, Christian scholars to come and lend credibility and show some things like that. But for the cast, he clearly was like, I need celebrities.
Yes.
The end.
Yeah. But this doesn't always work for DreamWorks. But I
No.
feel like it works well here. And I do feel like they just asked Stephen Schwartz, like, who should sing these songs? And he's like, great, I'm on it. Stokes. Like, he found people who could sing it really well. And it matches the timbre of everyone's voices. Like, I mean, and Disney's done plenty of this too. They do it a little bit less, but they've stepped plenty.
And like, you know, like when we were talking about Shark Tale, it's like, why is Angelina Jolie in this movie? But like, Angelina Jolie is a fine actress. You give her a meaty role. Like if she was in this, I'm sure she'd have done great. You don't give an actor like of that caliber and of that pay grade a role that's kind of nothing. Like I generally don't like having celebrity cast cartoons. I know it's a reality, but it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But like, you give Ray Fiennes a meaty role, he's gonna dig in. It's gonna be great.
Great. Like and this brother thing is set up from the beginning that like it's not a long movie. It's like an hour and a half. It's not even a longer animated movie. Yeah. But in the first act, I guess, you are very attached to this Ramesses-Moses brotherhood. Like
we see them getting into trouble together, getting out of trouble together.
We see them kind of fighting a little bit about, you know, who takes the blame over who and talking about their futures and anxieties.
But like, even though you see Ramses like getting pissed at Moses for getting him in trouble, like he's like, hey, I got a promotion to this thing. You are now in charge of this thing.
They help each other out. Yeah.
Like
they're looking out for each other.
They care about each other.
And
you care about that relationship.
It's done very quickly. Yeah. And that's everyone, right? That's the animators, that's the directors, that's the voice actors, all make that happen. Yeah. So that when it flips later and they're quote unquote enemies, their goals are in opposition, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. Like it's done really well.
But conversely, I will say that I felt like the beginning of Hunchback moved so quickly that I didn't have time. I didn't have time to care whether Quasimodo went to the Feast of Fools or not.
Hunchback relies more on on archetypes, and I think you have said multiple times, but you said during this last viewing, like maybe within the first 10 minutes that this score deserves a better movie. Yeah. This song. And I feel like they rely a lot on the songs to get you invested. Yeah. And like, they're lucky because the songs are freaking fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah.
So it works. But they don't, I feel like even Pocahontas, I knew those characters a little bit better. And I'm more invested, even though it's highly problematic, in which stories I'm invested in. I feel like Esmeralda gets a good characterization.
Esmeralda's an interesting character.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Frollo, you kind of fast forward and there's some archetypes and things that you're relying on to know, like, oh, he's bad. Well, but you get later.
But also right at the beginning.
Right.
Like the Belle song is about Frollo. It's not about Quasimodo.
It is, yeah.
This movie's about Frollo and Esmeralda. Quasimodo happens to be there.
That is true. That is very true. Because, Quasimodo, like, you're on his side. I was bothered this viewing by, like, how much they kind of maybe trivialize his, like, deformities and disabilities. Yeah. They're making a lot of jokes about it, and, like, there's a lot of pity as opposed to he's fine the way he, like...
Yeah, it's not clear what the message is here.
It is not for Quasimodo. Yeah. Like the Gargoyle song, which works in isolation.
Oh man, that would be so good in a different thing.
In a different movie. They're like comparing him to a croissant for a rhyming joke, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I can laugh at this now. Like there's some there's like an on the edge.
It's a little weird, yeah.
And like they're his friends, so they're allowed to. Yes, I see a raised hand.
Cool. I'm sorry, you're making a really good point, but you mentioned rhymes. I want to talk. I want to talk about one of my, because I feel like I'm giving Hunchback a lot of crap. I want to call out
Stephen Schwartz.
I seriously like this movie. I like it a lot. The Feast of Fools is okay. Hellfire is my favorite song in this movie. Yeah, duh. But if we take that out, I think it's the Feast of Fools. I think that song is so much fun and it tells us so much. And also it has my favorite rhyme, possibly in Disney history. Can you help me out?
I believe it is I don't know if it's everything is topsy-turvy, but it's something topsy-turvy.
On the 6th of January.
January. You love that rhyme more than...
I love that rhyme so much.
I'm sure the person who loves that rhyme most after you is Stephen Schwartz, and I feel like it's no more than 50% of how much you love that rhyme.
And I think Stephen Schwartz loves it because of how much Alan Menken rolled his eyes at
Yes,
because like it's fun. It's like topsy-turvy, upsy-downsy, all aroundsy, January. Oh.
I just have this, I laugh because I just have this vision of, like, Schwartz and Menken in the writing room, and they're like Alan Menken is doing boop, 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 and they're, like, nodding their head side to side, like, da-da-da-da, topsy-turvy on the 5th of January. Yeah, that works.
That works.
That sounds good.
I feel like Menken's like, I don't know. Schwartz is like,
Yep, this works.
It's in there. So I already wrote it. I already wrote it down. I wrote it in pen. I can't erase it. So January's in there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, music is great.
Yeah, like in both of these, like A Guy Like You is kind of the exception. I do want to bring up in Prince of Egypt, there's something different about the way the music is presented.
Yes, I agree.
And it's that sometimes people aren't singing it.
Yeah, there is, it's not always, so, like, an example of this is the All I Ever Wanted, which is in first to the second act transition.
Yeah, it's like
Moses
the
is
two brothers kind of...
it's not an I Want song, it's a I'm confused about what I want song.
Kind of, yeah.
And he's just learned that he's possibly a Hebrew, like, it's been revealed to him and he's not sure if he believes it or not. Yeah. And so he's, like, stumbling through the palace and, like, no, this is my home. This is all I ever wanted. I'm a prince of Egypt. And is it the whole song or half the song?
I think it's the whole song. He does not sing.
He's not,
He does, like his mouth doesn't move.
Yeah, he's narrating it.
This is a song inside of his head.
Yeah. Which is really interesting. Because I guess, like, Can You Feel the Love Tonight does that. They don't sing the he's holding back, he's hiding.
Right, it's internal.
Yeah, it's internal. But it's not done very much in Disney. And actually, I think the Heaven's Light reprise is done that way.
Oh, I believe you're right.
It's not mixed very well. It's like echoey and you can't hear the words.
Right.
But Quasimodo is watching Phoebus and Esmeralda fall in love when he's, like, re-examining, like, oh, no, like,
and I think
she doesn't
kind
love
of
me.
do that as, like, he's remembering this thing.
Right.
It's neat.
It's not executed as solidly as I would have liked.
But in Prince of Egypt, like, that is it just that one song or are there multiple?
I want to say that reprise when after the plagues, or I guess it's in the song called The Plagues, that when Ramesses and Moses are, once I called you brother, I don't think all of that is in their mouths.
Yeah, I don't think that's in their mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It doesn't, like, at first I wouldn't say it bothers me, but it strikes me because it's different and you're, like, you can't ignore it. You got to go, like, well, what's going on? Why is this happening?
Well, and so the flip of, the music in Hunchback does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of character investment and in terms of plot. I think in Prince of Egypt, it is it's the thing that Howard Ashman describes in a musical where it's like, once there's too much emotion to speak, you have to sing. Yeah. And I feel like the music comes more organically. Like, you don't have to sing it. Like, it could have been, I think the Prince of Egypt would also work really well as a non-musical, even though the music is one of my favorite parts of it, because I think there is strong story, there's strong characterization in every scene, musical or not. Yeah. And the music is an extension of that, as opposed to, we need to believe more about Moses, write a song for that, please. It's like, here's this scene, can you musicalize it?
I kind of don't ever want to watch this without the Plague song, because that's one of my favorite things ever. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying.
What do you mean without? Oh, I see. You don't want to watch a straight play version of this.
I just want that song.
Yeah.
You could take out all the others. Yeah. Just leave me the Plague song.
Yeah.
And then Stokes can sing during the credits. He can do the pop version of Through Heaven's Eyes.
Oh, Brian Stokes Mitchell, what a gift.
Yeah. Brian Stokes Mitchell, who you may know from Ragtime.
You should know from Ragtime. If you don't,
should know from Ragtime.
Stop this podcast. Go listen to Ragtime.
You also may know him from a little movie or a little show he did with Ernie Sabella, Man of La Mancha.
Oh, Ernie Sabella is related to this.
And he's
just the same.
You listen to it, and you're like, is that
what is Pumbaa doing?
Is that Pumbaa?
What's his name? With Don?
Sancho.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man of La Mancha, by the way, great.
Yep.
Stokes, amazing. Ernie Sabella can hit the notes. He can hit the notes that Seth Rogen can't. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh, Ernie Sabella. Yeah. So, all right. These movies are trying to do a similar thing, which is tell a serious story. And I feel like both of these movies see a lot of this arises, I think, they see Beauty and the Beast get nominated for an Oscar, and it opens up the possibilities of what an animated movie can be. No, you laugh.
I know it. No, I know
this is real.
Kate, I know what you're saying, but I also know what happens after this.
Yeah. Well, so here's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I agree. An animated movie doesn't have to be specifically for kids. It doesn't have to be specific. An animated movie can just be a movie.
Yeah.
Right? And it can convey serious themes and tell a very weighty story.
Yeah.
So both of these movies are trying to do that. And they are working off of premises that that the creative team has learned over time, specifically from the Disney Renaissance, right? So there's lessons that come before these movies, and then there's lessons that are taken after these movies in terms of where the two studios go after these respective movies. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the lessons before, because we talk a lot about the show about right lessons and wrong lessons learned. Yeah. Hunchback, what are some right lessons learned from previous? What are they doing here that builds off of good ideas?
Schwartz and Mencken.
Yeah.
Right? That's...
And music as a centerpiece of the drama and the action. I think some of the serious, I do think Beauty and the Beast these are the same directors on Hunchback as Beauty and the Beast. And I see that.
Yeah.
Both the serious and the humor are direct lines from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. I think the humor is a little bit more diffuse here. Mm-hmm. They kind of kept it to the objects and LeFou in Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. And here it's more we'll give more random characters everyone, bonky sounds.
Hunchback gets I don't feel like Belle and Beast have jokes.
No. No.
But yeah, the another thing I would say they learned is believable threat. Gaston.
Yes. Yeah.
He's just a jerk.
Yeah.
With a gun who wants to kill a thing.
Yeah.
That's a real threat. Yeah. It's not like this existential thing. It's not. Right. It's a jerk with a gun. Frollo is another just
is a powerful man who is threatened.
Yeah. And that's super believable.
Yeah.
And it's amazingly effective. Yeah. And he's got a great villain song.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. Oh. So I think those are good lessons. Mm-hmm. I think the animation in Hunchback, there's some of it that doesn't hold up as well, but I think in 1996 especially, this is the coolest animation that we've seen up to this point.
Some of the CG is clunky, but the
crowd people do not look as good as the wildebeests 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
But I think I remember the marketing at the time was look how many people we made in a computer, and look how we randomized them. They were so excited. So that's fine.
Yeah, and and I'll say Prince of Egypt does a much better job.
It's 3 years later, though, as well.
It's 3 years later, but also, they talk about it in the behind the scenes. They have the CG people, and they put hand animated people in front of them. Yeah. So that it's you don't notice as much the CG people because they're in the back.
Yeah, Hunchback does that too. Feast of Fools. Yeah, Feast of Fools has hand drawn in the front.
But there's sometimes in Hunchback where if you threw something in a little bit in front of
or
this
like
shot,
change the lighting or something.
it might not be as bad.
Yeah.
But again, you're right. 3 years later,
Yeah.
technology was rapidly changing
Yeah.
at this time. So, yeah.
And it's probably easy. I feel like the wildebeest must have had hand-drawn skins. Or like the painting.
But also,
they're wildebeest. They don't have faces. They don't
if
have.
you show me 3 wildebeests repeated 100 times,
Right.
it just looks like
Right.
100 wildebeests.
It's a better hiding of the technology.
People
than
are way harder.
People are way harder. Yeah.
Lessons that were learned for Prince of Egypt. It's interesting because DreamWorks didn't really have much before that.
Everything.
Yeah. But Katzenberg came from Disney.
Yeah.
Spielberg came from being
Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg. And I think a lot of the lessons it learned were like from film.
Yes. From live action film.
Possibly from Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Like having characters connect in ways besides like verbally, like
Right.
having the touch there.
Right.
Some of the shots, like I as I was watching the movie, I'm like, oh my God, our main character is super tiny in the frame. And this shot is from like a crane a mile away.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because
Yeah.
like we're seeing how isolated this character
Yeah.
is. Or like a character like the thing in the behind the scenes where Steven's like, when he pulls away from Ramses, or when
Yeah.
Ramses pulls away from Moses, he should also like pull into the shadows.
Yeah.
Like have him be in shadow there, and it's like he's pulling away from the light. And
Yeah.
like all this visual storytelling that I feel like is in Hunchback in some places, and is in other movies in some places, but I think it really, like the visual storytelling, there's a YouTube channel I like called Every Frame a Painting, but it's like every frame of Prince of Egypt is a painting that tells you a story.
Yes.
And that's Spielberg, that's Lawrence of Arabia, that's like film.
Yeah.
And I feel like rather than pulling from the history of animation, I feel like this movie pulls from the history of film
And uses
and
animation as
incorporates
the
it.
means. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Because Hunchback has some beautiful shots as well, but it's not as thorough.
No.
Yeah, they're pulling from animation.
Yeah.
That is
they're
what
pulling
they're pulling from.
from the history of animation. And I think it's interesting to see those two different approaches.
Yeah. And I don't know if the Prince of Egypt has any wrong lessons that it learned, but
Yeah, like somehow they
all
cast Martin Short and it wasn't horrible. That's impressive.
that was lucky.
That was lucky.
That's more lucky.
Maybe it's like when you have maybe they learned that you need to put Steve Martin in a room with him to like tamp him down a little bit.
And like not give him any explicit jokes. Like just let him I mean, Hunchback, we've covered this in the last hour. Like I think the comedy and the joke and the tone they learned incorrectly.
Yeah.
So much of this just comes from misunderstanding Robin Williams' performance. Everything that Disney has done wrong and DreamWorks has done wrong comes from misunderstanding Robin Williams' performance in Aladdin.
I think it's really I think that's a huge thing for animation is this one beautiful, amazing thing happened.
Yeah.
And then we keep trying to recreate it and just let it be its own thing.
Yep. So the comedy. Like, I can see what they were trying to do with the gargoyles.
We're talking about wrong lessons. Now.
Wrong lessons,
Okay.
yeah. There are 3 of them.
Yeah.
That often works. Not always.
Yeah.
They are all different colors. They have different silhouettes. Like, there's a good design in terms of visual, in terms of story. They all have different personalities. But it's just the writing is hacky.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like this is perhaps more of a 1996 problem than a bad writing problem.
Yeah, that could be true.
There's a little bit of like, we want to be of the time.
Yeah.
So there's like I feel like anytime Jason Alexander says, "Hey," which is like 10 times in the movie, that's like a 96 thing.
It's a real like in your face kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very like Sonic the Hedgehog.
A lot of like the
sort of thing.
yeah, the gargoyles literally raising eyebrows a lot. There's a lot of raised eyebrows.
It's. I mean, yeah. For 496, that was the version of like every movie having the really this is happening joke.
Really?
Now.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So that's the it's a 96 problem, but it's a restraint problem.
Yeah. I think the Hunchback's problem are restraint, or some version of restraint, like a restraint, or you could have given more here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think reliance on the music is also a wrong lesson learned, that the music has worked so well up to this point, so we'll put all of our big moments in songs as opposed to anywhere else.
Yeah, they didn't let any moments happen without a song.
Yeah.
Like Mufasa's death doesn't need a song. It can just be
Score.
Mufasa's death.
And the score is very powerful there,
Right.
but yeah, you don't need a song for it.
Yeah.
There's probably like a line or two. I mean, the Made of Stone line is not in a song.
No, that's a strong line.
Yeah.
I will say lessons learned incorrectly in Prince of Egypt. The lesson that somehow computer animation of a object on water looks good. I don't know. It looked terrible in Pocahontas. It looks terrible in this movie.
You're talking about the basket.
I'm talking about the
first
basket
scene
in the first
on water.
scene.
Yeah.
It looks so bad.
It's the only
And-
thing in the frame that's computer animated. In
Yeah.
general, I think computer animation in this film is used for like we can't do it's dumb to do this in
It's
hand drawn.
mainly
Like
it's mainly
there are 1,000 locusts.
Yeah.
We're not going to draw these.
It's
Are you
mainly
kidding?
for special effect.
Yeah.
And so when it's not, it's a little
Right.
like for the chariots, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, but like I guess it's like maybe that water is organic, kind of.
And yeah, the
And
water
so something on water.
and the water only looks okay. I feel like
No.
it looks fine on its own, but then when something interacts with it, like the Red Sea parting, like it's a cool effect, but like that's not how water works. I mean, I know it's a miracle, but like
This is an interesting nitpick I haven't heard
so
before.
so here's the thing, like when those waves, the way they do it is they split the water and then they have like the displaced water move up
Yeah.
and like create more violent
And
waves
it's
on
like
the surface.
constantly streaming up.
Yeah,
It's
and I
there's-
feel like
it's like there's air blowing it
the
upwards.
tips of that don't look as. I mean, again, it's 99.
fair,
They
yeah.
didn't like Nemo in 2003 is the first one to kind of do water well, and even that kind of looks weird now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's probably more of a product of like I've seen Moana, and those waves look cool.
Yeah.
So
That's fair.
For me, there's like little things that are just like, oh right, 1999.
Yeah.
Like, oh right, this technology is 20 years old. But
Tell you what though, when there's that lightning strike and you see the whale in
whale.
the water.
oh my gosh, that's cool.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's such a cool, and it really gives you like the scale.
Yeah, when they're walking through the Dead Sea, you can see like silhouettes of the fish in the water, but you don't see the. It's
so amazing.
effective.
Yeah, if you have not seen this movie, go watch this movie right
Like
now.
we want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like we watched it a week ago, and we're like, when is the soonest we can watch this again and not be crazy
when does
people?
when does season 2 start?
When
When
does-
can we watch this again?
So, what is most interesting to me
Yes.
is lessons learned after these movies.
Well, yeah.
Actually.
So
So I know the next 3 Disney movies
Yeah.
after Hunchback. I'm
Yeah.
going to quickly look up the next 3 DreamWorks
Ooh.
after Prince of Egypt. Do you know the next 3 Disneys?
No.
Okay. So the
But
next
okay. Can we just get the thing out of the way?
well, hold on. So the next 3 Disney movies after the Hunchback of Notre Dame
Our
are
Hercules.
Hercules. I think you mean Jercules.
I do mean Hercules.
Boom.
So it's Hercules, Tarzan.
Mulan and Tarzan.
Mulan and Tarzan.
Yes. So, DreamWorks,
Yeah.
their first film is Ants.
And
They've got The Prince of Egypt.
Yep.
And their next 3 films
Yeah.
are The Road to El Dorado,
oh yeah.
Chicken Run, which kind of doesn't count because it's the guy who is already doing.
Yeah,
it's
it's
the Wallace and Gromit guy, right?
Yeah, they're not really involved.
Yeah.
Too much.
And Shrek.
Uh-huh.
And then Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Yes. We met a goat named Cinnamon. That goat was great.
Yeah, that goat was great.
Yeah.
So, Dick, are any of those movies screaming out to you as masterpieces?
Yes. The Oscar-worthy movie about farts, Shrek. Somehow they went from making we haven't.
I thought that
have
movie
you seen
was
Road to
better.
El Dorado?
I have not.
That movie is a constant meme.
Is it?
There's a this why not both?
Okay.
It's like a meme I see all the time. I'm really excited to watch Road to El Dorado. It looks okay. Shrek. They went from this
to Shrek.
Which I understand a lot of people love Shrek. I hate Shrek.
I thought I loved. I am going to hold fast to the idea that a lot of people haven't seen it recently.
Yeah.
Because I think even up to a couple years ago, I don't remember the last time I saw Shrek before watching it for this podcast, within the last 6 months. But I feel like I watched Shrek several years after it had been released and being like, yes, this is still very funny. Mm-hmm. The last time, I didn't laugh at all.
Shrek uses music incorrectly.
Yeah.
It doesn't develop characters well. It doesn't use CG well. No. Everything looks like butt.
Yeah.
It doesn't cast actors correctly. No. It doesn't have moments. Every lesson learned from making Prince of Egypt, which should have won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Which should have this is the movie you start an animated Oscar for.
Yes.
All of those lessons from this movie, they were like, oh, this didn't get us an Oscar. Let's do the exact opposite.
So that's the thing.
And then they got a category.
Neither of these movies did particularly well by industry standards.
Right.
I think Prince of Egypt maybe came off a little bit better because DreamWorks didn't really have a metric to go by. They're like, well, we're not Disney, so we're not going to do as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the box offices were. I know Hunchback grossed a third of Lion King, which it's not fair to compare anything to Lion King. But it did more poorly than Pocahontas the year before.
Well, and yeah.
So I think what happened was for what
Prince of Egypt budget $70 million, box office $210.
That's good.
Yeah, it did well.
But I think it didn't get the attention. And so one of the things...
It definitely didn't get the attention.
It didn't get the attention. One of the things, and we saw this in the special features, where they're like, we don't need a movie that you're going to market off of. We don't have the... Was that in the special features? That
Probably.
We're no one's going to be buying Moses toys.
I mean, yeah, they didn't make... This is not a toy movie.
Yeah, this is not a toy movie.
Happy Meal movie.
You're not going to buy the burning bush. Yeah, what would the Happy Meals be? The burning bush and the locusts.
So even though I don't know, Hunchback probably made a little bit more than this.
Yes,
but
I would assume.
As far as a line of revenue, you got your Quasimodo toys, your Esmeralda toys, your Jolly toys, you got your Happy Meal toys.
Yeah.
You got dresses and stuff like that. This movie made way more money than Prince of Egypt off of merchandising.
So yeah, their box office was $325.
$325.
Yeah.
So more, but not. What was the budget on that?
I don't have those numbers.
But so even though similar
budget
box
was
office,
$70 million also.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So it made it should make more money. It's got the Disney name behind it. More people are going to see it. But they made so much money based off of all of the things that they could make related to this movie.
But also, the marketing screwed them over.
Yes.
Because they got the wrong audiences in the door.
Do you mean because the previews were hey, here's clips from Feast of Fools and not
that was
the murder?
Yeah. So I found Once Upon a Time on YouTube, the directors, Kirk Rise and Gary Trousdale, talking about... It was an animators podcast or something. So, and I think they had stopped working for Disney at that point. Yeah. So they were a little bit more forthcoming about hi, we got screwed over on this movie. But it shows clips too, you're right. The main marketing was stuff that Burger King could use, right?
Yeah.
They're Feast of Fools, Gargoyles. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
And they're this is not a movie about the Feast of Fools or the Gargoyles.
No.
This has more serious themes, and we want you know, and like we want the audience to know that, but it was not marketed as such. So not only did you not get people in the door who might have seen it kind of like you were attracted to Prince of Egypt for like, this movie like has some really epic animation and some really amazing songs and score.
You could put together a Hunchback trailer that a 16-year-old me would have gone, or I guess
whatever it was. Yeah.
I would have been in the theater. Day one. You could have put together a trailer that I would have been there for.
Yeah.
But
so not only did you miss
that would have lost a
viewers
lot of,
like that,
but
you also like got families in there that halfway through or 5 minutes in when there's a murder and then
an on-screen murder,
a
of
near
a mom.
Infanticide, go, wait, what?
Like, he almost drops a baby in a well.
Like Hellfire, I think, did not go over well in a lot of communities.
Esmeralda in general.
Yeah, Esmeralda in general.
Very sexy dance for a Disney movie.
I mean, it implies seduction and like lust and
she seduces Frollo.
She dances like when he's singing Hellfire, a vision of her in the flames appears and she's doing her sexy dance.
I guess she doesn't seduce Frollo. Frollo
becomes obsessed with her.
Obsessed. That's not on Esmeralda.
No, that's not on her.
That was not fair of me to say.
No. But yeah. So I'm sure you did not get the repeat box office, right? Like Lion King, I know we saw 3 times in the theater.
We're not taking a 4-year-old to go see Hunchback again.
And by the time Hunchback came out, my brother and I are both a little older, so I think we saw it still twice in the theaters. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of families who saw it once and like oh,
what the hell was that?
This was not what we thought it was going to be. It probably should have had a PG rating.
I think it did.
No, it did not. It was G.
There's no way that's true. Hellfire had a PG rating.
I know. And I feel like the word damnation is in there.
I believe you, and I'm looking it up.
It should have had a PG, if for nothing else, just to be like, hey, this is a slightly different kind of movie.
How is it G-rated?
It's G-rated. And Moana is PG.
Moana's PG.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it was just, they didn't know what to do with it. And I think what you said before about when someone's trying to talk about an uncomfortable subject and is making jokes, I feel like that's good imagery for the entire handling of Hunchback by the Disney studio.
Yeah.
They knew they had something more serious, but were afraid of the conversation, right? Afraid of like putting that into the public and saying, hi, we're Disney and we're putting out this kind of movie.
Yeah.
So not only are they like adding weird jokes for the gargoyles and Phoebus and all of that, but they're marketing it in that kind of interrupting the seriousness kind of way too.
I just want to come back to this real quick. Mm-hmm. Prince of Egypt, which has like off-screen and implied death.
It has on-screen. Moses sends that guy on the scaffolds to his death.
You don't see that guy hit the ground.
I mean, that's a Spielberg technique.
But that's what I'm saying. That's an off-screen death. You know, you see the kid holding the pot. He goes into the house. Yeah. The pot drops.
Yeah.
Like those guys get covered by water, but it's not like... That's a PG movie.
Is Prince of Egypt PG?
That's PG.
Okay.
Hunchback, which starts with a murder on screen.
But I do think it's the same. I think you don't see her make impact with the concrete.
You do.
Is that true?
That's why I was so shocked.
Okay. There's no blood.
There's no blood. Yeah, that should be a PG movie.
Yeah.
That would have cost them like $100 million, but it should be a PG movie.
But it could have been made up for.
It could have.
Right? Or you're like, oh, Disney's making a PG movie. Like, that interests teens, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
And I think Prince of Egypt wasn't afraid to push into that darkness. And I think there's a little bit of like, there's no framework for DreamWorks to kind of, like Disney has this reputation. DreamWorks doesn't.
Yeah.
I think it also helps that they're doing a Bible story. So I think that even though, right, you associate Bible with maybe a more conservative crowd.
Like a Christian will take their kids.
But, like, there is violence in the Bible. There is murder. And so there's a little bit more justification for it. well, we're just trying to get the story right.
It's like we're telling the story of this.
There's
thing.
going to be murder.
Like, yeah.
Whereas Hunchback has a little bit less.
There's a plague that kills every firstborn child. We kind of have to put that in there. We kind of have to show
it. Sorry, it's in the Bible.
Kate, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. You ready for a final cut?
I think I am.
I think it's time.
Let's
wrap this thing up. Let's talk about some final cut categories. The first one, I believe, is our scene shout-outs. Hey, Kate, would you like to shout out a scene from Le Hunchback de Notre?
Oui. I sure would.
Yeah.
So Quasimodo's at the Feast of Fools. Mm-hmm. He's out for the first time in his life. And he is afraid. Like, I think this is a scene that does Quasimodo some justice in terms of character development outside of a song. He's like fumbling around. He's not really sure what he's doing there. And he gets wrapped up into this King of Fools contest, in part because Esmeralda thinks he's wearing a mask. It's revealed that he's not wearing a mask. And so there's like this kind of danger moment where like he's revealed as like someone who looks different. Yeah. And then Clopin swings it around. He's like, great. So we found our King of Fools. You asked for a King of Fools. And
we got one. Let's
even though it's a weird title, like all of a sudden Quasimodo has a crown on his head and he's lifted onto the backs of people.
People are celebrating him.
He's celebrating him. And he's like, he cries a tear because he's so happy and it makes me cry. And then he's on this stage part, and then a guard who works for Frollo
kind of incites a riot.
Yeah, basically, like he's like, take this, bell ringer. Yeah. Throws a tomato at him, and then all of a sudden this mob mentality takes over, and it's not just the guards, but it's the crowd, and they're throwing fruit at him, and but like he's getting pummeled, and his like clothing so he gets like ropes on him, and then he gets put on this like turntable, and then he starts getting like whipped by ropes, and his clothes tear because he's trying to. And oh my god, I cry every time. I cry every time because this scene, like, and then Esmeralda puts a stop to it, but Frollo won't. Like Frollo says, no, let it continue a little bit longer. He needs to learn a lesson, and he's calling out, "Master, master." And it's just the flip of that scene is so effectively done. And I cried when we saw it on stage, too. It's the same scene. It's very similar, to a lesser extent, but it's similar to the, you gotta wake up, Dad, where, like, I can't not tear up.
That's interesting, yeah.
And it's animated well. It's paced really well. But, like, the action never stops. It's the same energy, but it just shows really well how a mob can flip from praise to scorn. It's very powerful to me.
Cool. Yeah. Nice.
Do you have a scene shout-out for Hunchback?
Absolutely, I do. And, well, I'm going to call this out. It's not a scene, so I hope that's okay. But one of the things that I really love in Hunchback is anytime that and it's very strong at the beginning and it goes in and out. Anytime Quasimodo is playing with his cityscape.
Yeah.
But there's a scene at the beginning where he's like, "Oh, I want to go to the Feast of Fools. Oh, I can't." And he's got like all his like little, he's got carvings of all the people in the town, or several of the people in the town. He's got carvings of the cities that he's made. And he puts his head down like depressed, but his head is down at street level.
Yeah.
And he's kind of
in his model. Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of in the street. And I think we're supposed to see that he's like maybe pretending a little bit. Like maybe he's like, oh, when I get really upset, I put my head down here and the people are at my eye level and the buildings are above me. And it's like, I'm down there. And so every time after that he interacts with his city, I think it's really powerful. I think like later it's a little bit too called out where like, oh, is this Esmeralda? Ha, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really, really nice little thing that they put in that they could have not put that in.
Yeah.
And the movie still would have been there.
Yeah.
But I think that just gives like like an emotional base to the movie that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Yeah. I'm glad you called that out. It is a nice device, and I forget that it's there.
Yeah.
It's nice.
What about the Prince of Egypt?
Oh, man. There are so many good
Everything.
scenes. There's a... you go first.
No.
Because I want to call out a scene, but it's not my favorite scene.
Well, go for it.
Okay.
It's okay.
So I have a scene and a half.
Okay.
One thing I think is really cool, and it could go really poorly, and I think doesn't, is Moses has a vision at some point. I think it's right after he meets his real sister. And he's like stumbling through the hallways. Or maybe it's like after All I Ever Wanted. That he has a dream in like hieroglyphic paintings. And it's like it's those drawings on the wall, like more literally two-dimensional, that are kind of acting out some foreshadows of the plagues to come. It's like all these Egyptians chasing, and he's running away from them, and then babies drop into the water, but it's all in this like hieroglyphic form. It looks like drawings on the wall. That's the style, and it's a different style than the rest of the movie uses, and the movie does not use any additional style. So it's not like, oh, some scenes the movie uses a different animation style. It's only that scene, and I think it is really effective in a way that like, you know, they try to do in the Maui scene, and I think it comes off more cheesy. Like, it looks kind of cool, but I don't like it as much as this scene, because I think it's really hard to do. It's hard to change animation styles, and I think it's effectively done here.
I also really like the way that these 2D characters are moving around a 3D space.
Yes.
Like, it's really...
Yeah, they're moving, like, around the corner of a wall.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah. It's well done. The other moment, and this is the moment that makes me cry in Prince of Egypt, is there's like in When You Believe, the song when they're exiting Egypt, it's the main chorus, and then it breaks down into a child, and it's like an actual Hebrew prayer, and then the kids dance, and it gets a little bit more up-tempo, and then it swells into this key change in the chorus, and there can be miracle. It's the peak of the song, and the camera angle zooms out, and you see all of these people flooding. Like, I'm tearing up now, and I tear up on the soundtrack too when I listen to that moment, because I can hear it. Like, I can see it. That's what I meant. Yeah, I can see it when I'm listening.
I hope you can hear it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't know why you're listening.
One of the reasons I like the soundtrack, so I can hear it. Anyway, so scene and a half. Shout out.
Yeah. I feel like I've called out a lot of my favorite scenes in this movie already, because just the brilliant like camera work, or I guess it's not you know what I mean though, like the camera work, the shot composition. We already talked about the little girl and the old woman that like come back. So I just want to call out the chariot race at the beginning. We talked about it a little bit already, but like that scene. Like, I feel like just the building of the relationship between Moses and Ramesses, by having the race, we learn, one, they're competitive, because they are, like, it's not a real race. They're not, like, racing for a thing. They're just racing because
it's the thing they decided to do.
Yeah, they like competing with each other. We see by them joking around that they're friends. They love each other, they care about each other, but they are competitive. And then when they like accidentally kind of destroy the city, we see that like sometimes their antics get them into trouble,
and
but
they're not
like, they're well intentioned, and they're not willfully destructive, but they're kind of destructive.
And they're heirs to a throne, right? And it shows that they're not ready.
They're not
to
ready.
Take over anything.
And they're very privileged.
Right.
And I think like a scene that is like, it's just an action scene. Like, the fact that it is telling us so much about the characters shows the care that went into every piece of this movie. And it's probably because it was DreamWorks' second movie. It's probably because Steven Spielberg was involved in the storyboarding. It's a lot of things. It's probably because they were putting a lot of money into this. Like $70 million isn't much for Disney, but when you're a new company, $70 million and getting, Val Kilmer, Danny Glover, Ray Fiennes, Michelle Pfeiffer, Sandra Bullock, Stokes,
Jeff Goldblum. We didn't mention yet.
As kind of a minor character.
He's Jeff Goldblum. He's Jeff Goldblum playing Jeff Goldblum. It's great.
He's great in it.
Yeah.
But he's like not a giant character.
No.
He's got maybe 10 lines in the whole thing.
Yeah.
You've got all this star power. You're putting all this behind it. You're going to really care about it. Mm-hmm. But like, you can tell there's not a wasted scene.
No. There's not
a scene where it's like, well, why is this in here? Like every scene, you're learning something. Mm-hmm. There's a purpose to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that scene is fun and funny, but there's more to it than just like, hey, we're telling jokes. It's you're learning about these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shout it out.
Shouted. All right. I've got an MVP.
Ooh, you have a MVP of these movies.
Most Valuable Prince of
Fools.
Phoebus.
Wait, can I?
Yeah, you can go first.
No, I was just gonna ask if it was someone that maybe has won a Tony, but we haven't heard of them.
So my throwaway answer is all caps Steven Schwartz.
That doesn't need to be a throwaway.
But I
answer.
feel like we've talked about his contributions. I feel like we've already shouted him out. So who I want to shout out in these movies, because we did not get a chance to talk about this, is strong female leads of color, because that's all we have in these movies,
right?
Which is neat.
Yeah,
they are played by white women. We can ignore that for now.
They're not all sung by white women.
They're not all sung by white women. I don't know who plays Zipporah and Miriam in singing voices, but certainly Moses' mother is an Israeli singer.
So that's something.
That's one.
That's something.
I think, I think Esmeralda is the Renaissance's strongest female character.
Yeah.
I think Pocahontas is in there. There's a lot of problems with her movie and with her character, but watching it again, Pocahontas does have flaw. Like, she has impulsiveness and she makes choices.
A little mischief.
Yeah. But Esmeralda would have been an easy character to just paint as, like, gypsy, using that word as in the movies context, of like sensual, and that's all she is.
It's like sensual and exotic and a thief.
But I think there's a reason that that I've seen multiple times in the past couple of years. One of those like meme shots where it's Frollo, silence, Esmeralda, justice.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of what's going on in the past 2 years in the politics of the United States and elsewhere.
I think you're going to date this episode if you say that there's injustice in the world when it's happening.
And it's a powerful white man versus a
that could only be one specific time.
Only one specific time in the American history.
But yeah.
She is an activist, and she is not of means. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have a platform for a large voice, but she makes herself heard, and she is athletic. She can get herself out of trouble. She's like
super clever. Like she has that like disguise where she sticks her goat's beard out, so she looks like an old man.
But she doesn't always have the answer. Like, she doesn't know to claim sanctuary when she's in the sanctuary. She's just trying to escape, and Phoebus does that for her, but she's really concerned about the welfare of her people, and it's a through line. It's not just in the song, which is a great song. God Help the Outcast should be a bigger part of the Disney songbook than it is. I feel like it's gotten some more love in recent years, but so good. And she carves her own path. She has a lot of agency. She gets our male characters out of several binds.
Yeah. I mean, she is the catalyst for much of this movie.
Yeah.
Quasimodo, like, comes down to the Feast of Fools. He might have just gone up.
Yeah.
Like, back up if it wasn't for Esmeralda.
Yeah,
He might have just kept obeying Frollo if it wasn't for Esmeralda. She is the one making things happen. And like we talked about a little bit earlier, Quasimodo is the typical Disney princess. He's locked in a tower.
The action is happening at him.
And like at the end, he has a little bit of agency, but he has a knight with him.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. And I think, Esmeralda's a more fleshed out character, but I think Zipporah and Miriam, Moses' eventual wife and sister, are. I was surprised with the well-roundedness of their portrayal in this movie. Where, like, they don't have giant parts.
I mean,
but
the Bible is
the Bible
a little male-centric.
Not as female-centric.
I don't know if you've heard
you
about
might
this.
Hope. But like Zipporah challenges Moses
Yeah.
to like, and she supports him, and she is like gets him like she is more. She has more agency, or like she exercises more agency than he is used to exercising within his environment. And Miriam too is like challenging him, like, no, you are a Hebrew.
Yeah.
Fight for us.
Yeah.
And I think those characters have some good meaty parts.
Nice. I want to do like a mini scene shout out because I just remembered a thing. One of the things I love, and I feel like this was some restraint, is after the burning bush when Moses goes to talk to Zipporah.
Yeah.
And say like, hey, I just met God.
Yeah.
That is done with music over it, and you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah, you see them having a conversation, but you don't hear
because
it.
that conversation would be weird and hard to write.
Yes.
And you just see it through expression.
And you see them making decisions together. Most importantly, that like he's not just like, all right, burning bush told me to do this, let's go.
So strong.
No, I'm going to talk to my partner about this and like figure out what to do. Yeah.
So strong.
Yeah. Cool. You have an MVP? Sorry.
Steven Schwartz.
It's Steven Schwartz. Great.
It's you know what? Steven Schwartz. But like you said, we've shouted him out a lot. I think we've shouted him out for like 20 minutes straight.
I'll continue to shout out Steven Schwartz for
I'm
the
going
rest
to give
of my
my
life.
MVP to Paul Candle, a man who, as far as I can tell, has done one cartoon voice, who is the star of, like, the singing star of this movie.
Yes.
Clopin has he has the intro song, he has Court of Miracles, and he has the closer song.
And Feast of Fools.
And Feast of Fools. He has 4 songs.
He does more singing than anyone else.
He has 4 songs, and it is not like the Jim Cummings
Right.
Princess and the Frog, where
Yeah.
I'm like, why does this character have songs? He's amazing from the beginning to the end.
I think that's one narrator, him as a narrator and player. Like, he's a leading player in this. And I think it works well. It's a good device. It's a good framing.
He's a tragedian. He's a mechanical.
Yeah.
He's that kind of like.
Well, and he's like telling a puppet show at the beginning. So he's got his own.
Yeah.
What is it called in Pippin? The troupe. The troupe.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
players.
like that kind of character.
Yeah.
He's like a Shakespearean.
But a one man
or like a
with
Pippin-y,
puppets. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, the character is great and the voice is perfect. Like, the voice and the animation match up. Like, if you play me that voice, that is what I expect him to look like. If you show me a guy that moves like that, that's how I expect him to sound.
Yeah.
It's just perfectly matched, and I can't give that enough credit.
Yeah. Crossover.
Ooh, boy. Okay. Do you have one? Do you have one ready?
Yeah. I
think I want Steven Schwartz to work with Steven Schwartz.
Steven Schwartz.
Go ahead.
Meet Steven Schwartz. This is broad and obvious. I just want the creative team from Prince of Egypt to have had. I feel like Hunchback didn't get as much care as Prince of Egypt did for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's Wise and Truesdale's fault. I think there were many chefs in the kitchen. I think there were many expectations that they had to, like, a lot of notes. I feel like they got a lot of notes.
Far too many notes for my kids.
And it wasn't, I guess, so maybe here's what I'd like to simplify. I wish it was Steven Spielberg giving them the notes. That's That's what, like, I want.
Yeah.
I kind of want Spielberg and Katzenberg and
Yeah.
Truesdale and Wise to do a movie. Maybe it doesn't have to be Hunchback.
But
Yeah.
Nice.
Those voices together, I think, would produce something stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something stronger than stone.
Bum, 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 bum. That's a good addition to the Broadway version.
So this is
Were I made of stone?
this is hard.
It's basically No Good Deed, but
Yeah, this crossover is hard because my favorite parts of these movies were both Stephen Schwartz. So I can't really cross that over. Did we talk about the Stephen Schwartz oeuvre?
what do you mean?
Did we talk about what he's done post Pippin?
He's done a musical called Wicked.
We mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
Did we mention
Yeah.
that Stephen Schwartz has done Wicked, like the biggest musical of the last
It is.
the
biggest
musical
original.
pre-Hamilton
Yeah.
of the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
It's a musical of its decade for sure.
It really is.
I mean, and that's one reason I put Stephen Schwartz in lyricist quotes for Hunchback is like there are at least 4 separate songs in Hunchback that when they hit the final note, you can add to the end and it works great.
Yeah.
That's a very Stephen Schwartz thing.
Yeah. The
Even his songs pre-Wicked, you can do that with.
I love Alan Menken. He is not known for grandiose. Stephen
Not
Schwartz
as much, yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More in his scores than his singing lines.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm going to do a crossover of these two movies, what am I going to do? I'm just going to put Stokes in Hunchback.
Great.
I don't know. He plays the serious we get rid of the 3 gargoyles and we give him one. We give. I'm crossing over from multiple places.
Okay.
Here's what's going to happen.
All right, that's fine.
We give him 2 gargoyles. One is Brian Stokes Mitchell.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Brian Stokes Mitchell is kind of a goofy, he's kind of a fun, smooth.
okay.
He's kind of a smooth, like a little bit Cole House Walker.
Okay.
Right? He's smooth, he's suave, he's a little bit jokey. Cole House at the beginning of Ragtime,
Sure.
not at the end.
Yeah.
Where he is not jokey
Also murdering people.
at all. The other gargoyle is Goliath from the TV show Gargoyles, voiced by who? Oh, Facilier.
Yeah, Facilier.
Yeah. So there we go. That's
Then
my
they're both
crossover.
serious.
No, I just said Stokes is not serious.
Oh.
He's like smooth and goofy.
Okay.
He's beginning of Ragtime, not end of Ragtime.
I don't know. This sounds like a great place to add in an Ernie Sabella.
Third gargoyle, Ernie Sabella.
As Ernie Sabella. That's
Done.
the gargoyle's name is Ernie Sabella.
Done.
All right.
That's my crossover.
That's
I'm crossing
confusing.
over-
There's a lot of
crossing over to one movie that we're talking about and a cartoon and The Lion King.
I mean, Ernie Sabella is kind of everywhere. We've learned this.
He doesn't leave.
He doesn't leave.
All right. What do we have? Is it
All right.
is it time?
It's
Final
time.
final cut judgment final?
Wow. That thing.
Wow.
So, Hunchback of Notre Dame, do you re-release, special edition, or vault it, burn it down with Paris?
I special edition this.
Yeah.
When Star Wars: The Phantom Menace came out, a lot of people
Good start.
were like, "Hey, Jar Jar is the worst thing that's ever happened." They were wrong. That movie's terrible. Jar Jar is just a piece of it.
A piece of
and
the terrible.
Honestly, he's not that bad.
It's like kind of entertaining.
He's got a character arc. Like he's a goofy loser at the beginning, and then at the end, he's like a general. He wants things. None of the other characters want things. He has a goal. You could give him an "I Want" song. Everyone else is just like, midichlorians. He sucks. But everything in that movie sucks. Anyway, when that movie came out, people hated Jar Jar. And so they made fan edits that removed him in order to try and make the movie better.
Okay.
I get rid of the I don't think we get rid of the gargoyles completely,
I agree.
but I think we get rid of 50% of the jokes.
At least,
We get rid of all of the jokes in Heaven's Light and just let that song be.
Yep.
I should have crossed over Heaven's Light and Heaven's Eyes for no reason.
Oh,
that should have been my crossover.
Yeah. Steven Schwartz likes Heaven's things.
But yeah, I think we just cut some of the gargoyle stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is like, it goes from like a B- to A-.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think my re-release or my special edition would be similar. That, like, it's so close. I even think just taking out some sound effects would help a lot. Like the visual could be the same. Yeah, there's a lot of boings and clonks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if someone was like, here, Kate, we're going to give you all the resources, fix one Disney movie, right? There'd be a lot of candidates. Moana, Princess and the Frog. There'd be a lot of things that I'm like, I have ideas about this.
Yeah.
But Hunchback would be I think the easiest.
Yeah.
And the one where, like, no, I know. I think Moana and Princess and the Frog, you need some workshopping.
Restructuring.
You need a lot of ideas coming at you and then select.
I believe you could make it better.
Yeah.
But, like, also, like, you do a whole rewrite and then it's like, is this better or is it just different?
Hunchback, I know what to do.
Yeah, Hunchback is fixable.
You just rewrite the gargoyles.
Yeah.
They're there. They have the same basic function, but you make that function a little bit clearer.
You can even keep the animation the same. Just revoice them.
I mean, some of the physical gags I think are dumb, but
Fair.
One of the things that we had been, like, we were trying to fix the gargoyles is that there's so many different types of jokes. There's like puns. There's like fart jokes. There's like literal Three Stooges physical comedy, and it's just too much. You need one type of
one type of comedy
that they do, and I'm not sure exactly what that is.
I think they just need a relationship.
Yes.
Like you were saying with the hyenas, like, I know the relationship of the hyenas.
Yes.
The gargoyles.
Yeah, I don't know who's in charge. It's kind of like Laverne, but then she goes
also,
silly. Like
the stoic guy.
Yeah.
But also,
Jason Alexander might be in charge.
I don't know.
It's unclear. Yeah, I think a clearer structure.
You know what? Good singer, though. I like Jason Alexander's voice.
He does.
Good singer.
Again, he does very well what he was paid to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a special edition, but it's not a hard one to do.
No.
Prince of Egypt, though.
Re-release. Yep. It's great as it is. Cleanups of digital effects, I guess, that aren't as good.
But I don't mind it.
No.
It's especially for a movie of 1999. I think it's integrated as best as they could.
I think if you put that movie in theaters today, and just tell people it's new, I think they would enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think they'd be like, yes, this is a new movie I haven't seen yet. This holds up.
So, but my question is, like,
we fixed some of the casting,
right? Like the Disney Renaissance was like my thing as a child.
Yeah.
Why didn't I like this movie? Is there a way to make it more appealing to kids without, or is this just a movie that you appreciate later?
I think it's that.
Okay.
I don't think it's a movie.
And I don't think it's a problem, but I will say that, like, I feel like I didn't like Hercules.
I also think there's an expectation as a child that if you're seeing an animated movie, it is going to be a fun Disney movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this isn't a movie to be appreciated by kids, and that's fine.
Yeah. Cool. I'm satisfied with that answer.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't have a timer on this podcast, but I think this might have been a little bit long.
I think so. I mean, they're great.
I'll tell you what,
movies.
I could talk about these movies for a couple more hours.
Yeah.
I could just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, I know we forced some topic changes because we needed to move on, but I could keep talking about both of these.
See them.
Because Hunchback is a really, really good movie with some problems.
Yeah.
But all of the stuff that's good is so good.
Yeah.
Every Clopin song, but basically every song, even A Guy Like You, which does not necessarily fit in the movie, is a great song.
And it's animated fun.
It's like the Tangled.
Got a Dream. Yeah.
Right? But it fits there. It doesn't necessarily fit in this. And Prince of Egypt is breathtaking.
If nothing else, like when this podcast ends, just like listen to the soundtracks.
Oh,
they're so good.
yeah.
But I think both of these movies, if you haven't seen them in a while.
Watch Brian Stokes Mitchell sing Heaven's Eyes with the Mormon Tabernacle
Oh my gosh,
Choir.
so good.
Oh.
I mean, just watch Brian Stokes Mitchell. We have a lot of recommendations.
Oh, can we also talk real quick about... I'm sorry, I just want to...
Uh-huh.
I want to bring up one guy. And that is Hunchback, the... not Broadway, it's stage version.
They did a version at the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, which is traditionally where Disney has workshopped a lot of its shows before going to Broadway.
Yeah.
They wanted Hunchback to go to Broadway. Didn't make it because,
it didn't
surprise, there are still tone problems.
But one thing that was interesting is that the Hunchback, Quasimodo, was deaf, as he would be, and he was in the books.
Because he lives in a bell tower with really loud sounds.
The actor wasn't deaf, but the character was.
But the actor
deaf.
is an artistic director of Deaf West,
right?
Michael Arden.
And so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did he speak like normally to the gargoyles?
I think. Yeah, I mean, so we saw a regional production of it, not the Paper Mill, but it's the Paper Mill
a tiny production
version.
Of it that we saw.
And from what I understand, the actor who played Quasimodo just copied what Michael Arden did.
Right.
So I think the direction is when Quasimodo is speaking to other human characters, Frollo, Esmeralda, he is speaking in a way that is similar to like when a deaf person speaks as opposed to uses sign language.
Right.
So, and I think it's very effective.
Yeah.
When he's singing, it's in a non-accented voice.
Right.
When he's talking to the gargoyles, because they're kind of him, it's in a non-accented voice.
And that makes it more clear that they're imaginary.
Yes, agreed. I kind of miss that. Like, that might be another thing that I would do in a special edition, but it might be too much. I don't know.
You would have to, I think you would have to cast a deaf actor.
Yes, I agree.
Because I think that voice can get...
Yeah.
Can get problematic real
or someone
fast.
who's very attached to the deaf community, like Michael Arden.
Like Michael Arden.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that version, like, big change there.
Mm-hmm.
Some big changes for the treatment of Esmeralda gets, I think, real rough.
Yeah, the stage musical puts her more as an object, and on purpose. Like, the end of Act 1 is a song called Esmeralda, and it's the three male characters singing about their kind of attachment to her, and because they're all motivated by her in a different way, but it also makes her very objectified and less of her own character.
So like
it's
it
problematic.
fixes problems and creates new problems. But one thing that is not a problem is the voice of Frollo, or the actor who plays Frollo, Patrick Page.
Patrick Page,
who
rock star.
Yeah, if you are a Broadway fan, you have probably heard about Hadestown. He plays Hades.
Yes.
He plays the titular character's town owner. Anyway, Patrick Page is amazing, and he is amazing as Frollo. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Tony J does such an amazing job with him.
Tony J's great.
And if you're going to get someone to play him on stage that's not Tony J, great, Patrick Page.
Yeah.
He's the villain's guy. He's lovely baritone bass. Like, oof.
Just amazing voice, amazing, like, he looks kind of like a nice guy, but he's got a villainous face.
Yes.
And he ordered a drink near you once.
He did. Yep, at Studio 54. Or not Studio 54, 54 below. He had his own table that the waitstaff goes to and gets your drinks for you, but for some reason Patrick Page orders at the bar. That's just a thing he does, because I was sitting at the bar. He came over, he ordered a drink. I thought, is this Patrick Page? And then when he left, the bartender...
I get a whiskey sour.
It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
And then the bartender's like, ooh, like asking another bartender, doesn't he have a wait staff? And she just rolls her eyes and goes, Patrick Page likes to order at the bar. Just get him what he wants. It's like, this is a thing he does here. And we don't question it because he's Patrick Page. Yep. It was great.
There we go.
That's all.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up. Kate, thanks for a really fun episode.
Thank you, Dick Ward. Yeah. Listeners, thanks for listening to this extra long episode. We hope it was worth it.
And thanks for like throwing out suggestions. We've been getting some suggestions. We've been getting
some really good ones.
Some good listens, some good reviews, which always great. But like more than reviewing and sharing the love, like we love hearing these suggestions.
Yeah,
I'm having a lot of fun. We've got after this episode, we've got an episode that's
the next one coming up will
listener
be
suggested.
Listener suggested. So if you would like to suggest anything or just reach out and see what's happening, we are on Facebook at Cellmates
Podcast.
We are on Twitter.
Cellmates Podcast.
We are on Gmail.
Cellmatespodcast@gmail.com.
And we are on internet.
Cellmates, www.cellmatespodcast.com.
There you go.
That's HTTP. I don't think it's HTTPS, but like you're not really sending any data, so it doesn't really need to be a secure
Also,
site.
we're on all the listening apps.
Yeah, and if we're not on a app that you want to listen to a podcast on, please let us know.
Let us know. We'll fix it.
Yeah, we just recently got added to Stitcher. Our videos are being uploaded to YouTube now, or our podcast episodes are being uploaded as like video. So if you want to listen on YouTube, you can do that. Let us know where you want us. We'll make it happen.
That's right.
Yep. And of course, tell other people.
That's right.
Kate, tell your friends.
Dick, tell your friends.
Oh, okay. I will. For Cellmates Podcast, I've been Dick Ward.
I've been Kate Phillips.
I've been Dick Ward.
All right.
All right. Good episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bum, 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 bum.
Are you doing
Yeah, I guess
Kiss
I'm
from
gonna...
a Rose?
No, I'm doing Pirates. I'm doing... It's a Hans Zimmer track that I'm on right now. There.
Used to be a
That song is great. It's got all sorts of fun, like, modulation.
You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. And did you know that when it snows, my eyes become light, and that something
Larger,
is somewhere new pain. Baby,
I compare you to a kiss from the rose. Yeah, no one knows the prepositions
get to
in that
you,
song.
the stranger reveals, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, the light hits the room on the haze.
La 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 la. Do do do.